Joining me is former Massachusetts governor and presidential candidate Michael Dukakis. Really great to have you on the show again.
Thanks, David.
So to start with, just as a point of curiosity here, shows how small of a world we have here. It turns out my producer's grandmother, back in 1987, actually wrote a piece in Elder Vision, a newspaper here in Northampton, Massachusetts, about your mother, Governor, incredibly. And he actually brought it in, including the letter that you sent to her, to his grandmother. It's incredible what a small world it is, isn't it?
Sure is.
So let's get into talking about the 2012 election. We have the first debate coming up this week. You know better than anybody the effect that debates can have on the outcome of the elections. Give me a sense of, given where the polls are now, what does Mitt Romney have to do to swing the election back in his favor?
Well, that's hard to say. I'm not sure that debates have all that much effect. You know, at the time, everybody's excited, David, and everybody's looking for gaffes. I mean, that's the name of the game. Did somebody screw up? You know, in point of fact, the things that make somebody a good president don't necessarily have anything to do with being a good debater. But this will be a huge audience. I suspect 100 million people will be watching this thing. So if you're a candidate, you got to try to make sure that you're doing the best you possibly can. I think Romney's problem, and look, by no means is this race over. This is a tough competitive race. Anytime you have a soft economy, the incumbent is going to have to struggle. But there seems to be with Romney a kind of disconnect between him and an awful lot of Americans. And I'm not quite sure why that is, but you know, we saw him in action here, and there was a lot of the same, call it what you will, disconnect, distance between him and people generally that we saw here. I mean, there's a reason he's 30 points behind Obama in Massachusetts. That continues to be the case. And I'm not sure what he does to correct it, frankly, at this point. I mean, he's got to be out there, try to be himself. And I suppose try to make as wide an appeal to people and correct this impression if he can. On the other hand, the president is a skilled debater, and he's, I think, been a pretty effective campaigner over the course of the past 2 or 3 months. So he's no slouch, and he's not an easy guy to get the best of in a debate.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking over time about how the Republicans have said, well, you're going to get to know the real Mitt Romney at the Republican National Convention. We saw that didn't go well. Now we're hearing the debates are really where you're going to see the real Mitt Romney, but it's only a month before the election. I mean, looking back and comparing to when you ran, you were by some considered kind of a technocrat, I would say, and there was question about whether you were fully connecting with the public on kind of an emotional level when you ran. So you know it's very difficult to bridge that gap, particularly in a month.
That's right. Are we still on?
We're still on.
Okay. You know, it's so hard. I mean, this technocrat thing. I used to say to the members of the National Press Corps, look, you don't get elected governor 3 times in Massachusetts because you're a dry technocrat. I mean, it just doesn't happen. But trying to give people a good sense of who you are through the national media is not easy. The guy who does that best, obviously, by a mile or two, is Bill Clinton. The speech that he delivered, for example, or for that matter, his performances during the debates when he was running, were classics. I mean, this is a guy that can speak conversationally to 10 million people. I don't know how he does it, but very few of us have what he has. And so trying to convey who you are, not just in a debate, but over the course of a long campaign, is exceedingly difficult. I don't know that I did it very well. Other candidates have had the same problem. And all you can do is try to do the best you can to be yourself and try to convey that to the folks that are watching.
One problem you didn't have in 1988 was that you were yourself when comparing you as the governor of Massachusetts to you as the presidential candidate. Now with Mitt Romney, we've seen him have to distance himself from probably his biggest accomplishment in Massachusetts, that of now colloquially known as Romney Care, and even sometimes getting away with kind of being critical of liberal Massachusetts. This seems to be a double standard to me. I mean, imagine if President Obama kind of derided the politics of Mississippi, for example. He would be completely lampooned in the media.
Or Illinois, for that matter.
Or Illinois, for that matter. Why is there this double standard?
Well, you'll have to. Somebody's got to ask Romney what this is all about. I mean, even in his last year or two as governor, when he was obviously running for the presidency, he'd go out across the country and trash the state, which is one of the reasons why he's so unpopular here. But I don't get it. Running away from Romney Care doesn't make any sense to me. In the end, he kind of walked away from that too, even here in Massachusetts. But it was the one thing he did as governor, which it seems to me he ought to be pretty proud of. And every once in a while, that kind of sneaks out. The other day, he had some very positive things to say about his health care plan, and rightly so. But it was the first time I remember in months that he had done that. And you just wonder a little bit, what's with this guy? I mean, why not get up and say, hey, we created, on a bipartisan basis, the model for the president's plan, and I'm proud of that. Well, he won't do that because he's in a party that for whom the president's health plan is anathema, even though, as I think you know, it was the product of a lot of conservative think tanks who proposed it as an alternative to Clinton's plan. So I'm the last guy in the world to try to explain this Romney tick, and I just, for the life of me, I have an enormous amount of pride, as you know, in this state. I was its governor for 12 years. I loved every minute of it. And for 8 years before that, a legislator. I'm very proud of the kinds of things we've done and how far the state has come from those very dark days in the mid-'70s when they were calling us the New Appalachia. And Romney just doesn't seem to have that. In fact, he's left us in a way. I mean, he's taken up residence in New Hampshire or something. So it's another part of his personality which I just don't understand.
I want to touch a little bit on race and the racial undertones of this campaign, and of course we've seen this movement to question President Obama's place of birth and citizenship. You had some inkling of the racially motivated nature of Republican campaigning. I mean, we know the Willie Horton ads of 1988. How do you look at this official Republican campaign, but also the unofficial stuff, the birthers and all of this sidebar that's going on to bring down President Obama? It's very, very telling how much racism is now okay that the president is African American.
I don't think whatever is going on out there represents official Republican policy, and I don't think the leaders of the Republican Party buy into this. I mean, there are some folks out there, sadly, for whom race is still an issue. On the other hand, I think a lot of Obama's appeal is that he is an African American, that he is the first, that a lot of us are very proud of that. Proud of him, too, because he's an extraordinary guy in many ways, but it cuts both ways. But I think it'd be unfair to say that the Republican Party is playing this game or pushing this message. I don't think they are, and I think it's just Donald Trump. I mean, the Republican Party, I don't think so. But it's that kind of thing that we're seeing, and unfortunately, you have that around. I mean, we're experiencing the same kind of thing right here in Massachusetts with this Scott Brown Elizabeth Warren campaign. If what's been going on the subject of Native American ancestry isn't racism, I don't know what is. And those folks the other day who are whooping it up, and obviously in a very insulting way to Native Americans, should have been fired on the spot. But look, race continues to be an issue in our society. We've come a long way from the days back in my childhood when people of color couldn't live on this side of the railroad tracks in Boston, let alone what was going on in the southern part of the country. And we've just got to keep making progress on that. And I think the president's election and re-election, I hope, will be a strong statement to people that increasingly race is no longer a factor, the best sense in politics of this country.
All right, we've been speaking with former Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis, also former Democratic presidential candidate. Pleasure as always, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
David, thanks for having me on.
Okay, thanks.